The alarm bells rang across Earth Station 1. Admiral Park Taemin stood at the command center, watching the massive screens that showed space around Earth. His coffee cup sat forgotten on the metal table as red warning lights flashed everywhere. "Sir, we have contact," said Commander Choi Min-ho, his voice tight with worry. 500 ships just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of our solar system. Park Taemin felt his stomach drop. 500 ships. Earth's entire defense fleet had only 47 vessels. He had fought pirates and raiders for 20 years, but nothing like this. "Show me," he ordered. The main screen changed to show the alien fleet. The ships were massive, each one 3 times larger than Earth's biggest battleship. They looked like floating crystals, all sharp edges and gleaming surfaces that caught the light of distant stars. They moved in perfect formation, like a school of deadly fish swimming through the dark ocean of space. Analysis report, Park Taemin said, trying to keep his voice steady. Dr. Yoon Haewon hurried over with a datapad in her hands. She was Earth's top scientist, but even she looked scared. "The ships are using technology we don't understand. Their hulls appear to be made of some kind of living crystal. Energy readings are off the charts." President Kang Soo-jin arrived at the command center 30 minutes later. She was a small woman with gray hair, but everyone in the room stood straighter when she walked in. She had been a general before becoming president, and she still carried herself like a soldier. "What do we know?" she asked. "They're not moving." "Closer," reported Captain Lee Do-haen from his station. "They're just sitting there at the edge of our system, waiting." "Waiting for what?" President Kang asked. That answer came an hour later. A message arrived on all Earth communication channels at the same time. The voice that spoke was cold and mechanical, translated by alien computers into human language. "I am High Arbiter Velthan of the Valerian Empire. We have come to offer your species a choice." The alien's face appeared on every screen across Earth. It looked like a person made of blue crystal, with sharp features and eyes that glowed like ice. When it spoke, its mouth barely moved. "For 3,000 years, the Valerian Empire has brought order to this galaxy. We have conquered 800 worlds and brought peace to countless species. We offer you the same gift." President Kang stood in the command center, her hands clasped behind her back. Around the world, billions of humans watched the same message. "You will surrender completely within 72 hours. The alien continued. "Your military will be disbanded. Your leaders will step down. Your people will serve the empire. In return, we will allow your species to live. This is more generous than we usually offer." The transmission showed images of other worlds the Valerians had conquered, cities that stretched across entire continents, all built in the same crystal style. Alien beings working in factories and farms, their movements slow and mechanical like robots. "If you refuse, High Arbiter," Velthan said, "we will demonstrate why no species has ever successfully resisted the Empire. You have 72 hours to decide." The message ended. Silence filled the command center options. President Kang asked quietly. Admiral Park Taemin pulled up tactical displays. "Our fleet is strong, but not against 500 ships. If we fight, we might take down 20 or 30 of them before they destroy us." "What about the orbital defense platforms?" asked Commander Choi Min-ho. "They're powerful, but designed to fight smaller forces. Against this many ships, they won't last long." Dr. Yoon Haewon stepped forward. "There might be another way. Project Prometheus has been developing new weapons systems. They're not ready for full deployment, but under these circumstances," President Kang looked at her carefully. "What kind of weapons?" "Different approaches. While the galaxy has focused on energy weapons and exotic technology, we've been perfecting older methods, kinetic weapons, nuclear devices, some other things I can't discuss in open channel." Admiral Park Taemin frowned. "Kinetic weapons against ships that advance? Sometimes the simple solution works best," Dr. Yoon replied. "Their shields might stop energy weapons, but physical objects moving fast enough can punch through anything." President Kang walked to the main window that looked out at Earth below. The planet looked peaceful from space, with white clouds swirling over blue oceans. Cities sparkled like jewels across the dark parts of the world where night had fallen. "Recommendations from the cabinet?" she asked. The messages from Earth's other leaders had been coming in for the past hour. Some wanted to negotiate. Others demanded immediate surrender to save lives. A few called for fighting to the last ship. Captain Lee Do-haen spoke up from his station. "Ma'am, the Hellfire Squadron is ready for whatever you decide. My pilots will follow any order." President Kang turned back to face the room. Everyone waited for her decision. Outside, the alien fleet hung in space like a threat written in the stars. "Send a message to High Arbiter Velthan," she said finally. "Tell him we need the full 72 hours to consider his offer." "Yes, ma'am," replied the communications officer. "And send coded messages to all colony worlds. Tell them what's happening. If Earth falls, they need to be ready." Admiral Park Taemin nodded. "What about fleet preparations?" "Begin immediate readiness protocols. Move all ships to defensive positions. Activate all orbital platforms. President Kong paused. And Dr. Yoon, prepare Project Prometheus for immediate deployment. All of it. Dr. Yoon, Haewon's eyes widened. All of it, ma'am. Some of those weapons have never been tested in actual combat. Then we'll test them on the Valerians. President Kang replied coldly. If they want to threaten Earth, they'll learn what humans do when cornered. As the hours passed, Earth's fleet moved into position. Cargo ships and civilian vessels evacuated the inner system. Children were moved to underground shelters. The planet that had given birth to humanity prepared for war. On the command center, Admiral Park Taemin watched the alien fleet on his screens. They hadn't moved, still waiting at the edge of the solar system like patient predators. Do you think they've ever lost a battle? Asked Commander Choi Min-ho. Everyone loses eventually, Admiral Park replied. Today might be their day to learn that lesson. The 72 hours passed like a nightmare that moved too fast and too slow at the same time. Admiral Park Taemin had not slept in 2 days. He stood in the command center of Earth Station 1, watching the countdown timer reach 0. Incoming transmission from the Valerian fleet, announced the communications officer. High Arbiter Velthon appeared on the main screen again. His crystal face showed no emotion, but his glowing eyes seemed colder than before. Your time has ended, humans. What is your answer? President Kang Soo-jin stepped forward. She wore her military uniform instead of civilian clothes. Her voice was steady and clear when she spoke. Our answer is no. Earth will never surrender. The alien's head tilted slightly. You choose extinction over service. This is unexpected. Most species beg for mercy when they see our fleet. We are not most species. President Kong replied. High Arbiter, Velthon was silent for a long moment. Very well, you will serve as an example to other worlds that might consider resistance. Prepare for demonstration. The transmission ended. All ships, battle stations, Admiral Park Taemin ordered into his communicator. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Across the solar system, Earth's defense fleet moved into position. The 47 ships looked tiny compared to the alien armada, but they held their formation with pride. Captain Lee Du-hyen led the Hellfire Squadron from his fighter, checking his weapons one final time. Hellfire Squadron ready for combat. He reported Luna Base is ready, added Commander Choi Min-ho from the moon's surface. All defense batteries are charged and targeting systems are locked. Dr. Yoon Haewon worked frantically in the underground bunker that housed Project Prometheus. Around her, technicians prepared weapons that had been built in secret for 15 years. She activated the communication link to the command center. Project Prometheus is ready for activation, she said. All kinetic bombardment systems are online. The Wrath platforms are in position. The Valerian fleet began to move. 200 ships broke away from the main group and headed toward Earth. They moved slowly, like they had all the time in the world. Their crystal hulls caught the light of the sun and threw it back in sharp, beautiful patterns. They're taking their time, observed Commander Choi Min-ho, like they're trying to scare us. Maybe they are, Admiral Park replied. But fear works both ways. The first Valerian ships reached the outer edge of Earth's defense zone. They opened fire with weapons that looked like streams of pure light. The beams cut through space and struck the first orbital defense platform. The platform exploded in a ball of fire and metal. Debris scattered in all directions. The light beams continued, slicing through 2 more platforms like they were made of paper. Energy weapons are incredibly powerful, reported the tactical officer. Our shields can't stop them. Admiral Park Taemin watched 3 more platforms die in seconds. Begin tactical withdrawal to Luna Base. Make it look like we're retreating in panic. The Earth's fleet turned and began moving toward the moon. Some ships fired their engines at full power, as if they were running in fear. The Valerian ships followed, their light weapons destroying everything in their path. Sir, they're taking the bait, said Commander Choi Min-ho from Luna Base. The alien ships are moving into the kill zone. Dr. Yoon, are you ready? Admiral Park asked. Wrath system is locked and loaded, she replied, targeting the lead Valerian ships. The Wrath system was humanity's secret weapon. While other species had developed energy shields and exotic defenses, humans had perfected something much simpler. Tungsten rods, each one the size of a telephone pole, accelerated to 15% of light speed using magnetic launchers. Fire. Admiral Park ordered the first tungsten rod launched from a hidden platform behind the moon. It moved so fast it was invisible to the naked eye. It struck the lead Valerian ship directly in the center. The ship exploded. The tungsten rod, moving at incredible speed, carried the energy of a nuclear bomb. It punched through the alien's crystal hull like it was made of glass. The ship broke apart in a shower of blue fragments. Direct hit, shouted the tactical officer. Target destroyed. Fire, all batteries, Admiral Park commanded. Dozens of tungsten rods launched from hidden positions around the moon. They struck the Valerian ships before the aliens could react. Each impact released the energy of a small nuclear weapon. Ship after ship exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Hi, Arbiter, Velthan's voice crackled over the communication channels. Impossible, our shield should stop all primitive weapons. Surprise, Admiral Park said quietly. The Valerian ships tried to retreat, but the tungsten rods were too fast. In less than 5 minutes, 20 alien ships had been destroyed. The survivors fled back toward their main fleet, leaving trails of crystal debris floating in space. Damage report, Admiral Park ordered. We lost 6 defense platforms, but all our ships are intact, reported Commander Choi Minho. The aliens lost 20 ships and took no human vessels. Captain Lee Duhyan's voice came over the communicator. Hellfire Squadron is ready for pursuit. Should we follow them? Negative. Fall back to defensive positions. They'll be back, and they'll be angry. Dr. Yoon Hae-won appeared on the communication screen. She looked excited and terrified at the same time. The kinetic weapons worked better than our best simulations. Their crystal hulls are actually more fragile than we expected. Why? Asked Admiral Park. They evolved on low-gravity worlds. Their technology is designed for energy, weapons, and shields. They never developed defenses against simple kinetic impact. President Kang Soo-jin joined the conversation from her secure bunker. What's our status for the next attack? We have enough tungsten rods for maybe 3 more bombardments, Dr. Yoon replied, but they'll adapt. They won't fall for the same trick twice. Then we'll have to be more creative, Admiral Park said. The celebration was short-lived. Long range sensors detected the main Valerian fleet beginning to move. All 500 ships were now heading toward Earth, and their formation looked different. They had learned from the first attack. Incoming transmission, announced the communications officer. Hi Arbiter, Velthan appeared on screen again. This time, his crystal face showed something that might have been anger. You have caused the death of Valerian warriors, he said. This is the first time in 3,000 years that primitives have drawn our blood. You will pay for this insult with the destruction of your entire world. Bring it on, President Kang replied calmly. The transmission ended. All ships, prepare for full engagement, Admiral Park ordered. This time, they're coming with everything they have. Outside, the stars watched silently as the greatest battle in human history began. The Valerian fleet came like a storm of crystal and light. All 500 ships moved together in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming as they reflected the distant sun. Admiral Park Taemin watched them approach on his tactical display. Knowing that humanity faced its darkest hour, they're spreading out, reported Commander Choi Minho from Luna Base. Looks like they learned from our ambush. The alien ships had arranged themselves in a wide circle around Earth's orbital zone. There would be no trap this time, no surprise attack from hidden positions. This would be a straight fight, and the odds were terrible. Dr. Yoon, what's our weapons status? Admiral Park asked. All kinetic bombardment systems are ready, she replied from her underground bunker. But we only have enough tungsten rods for limited strikes. After that, we'll have to rely on conventional weapons. President Kang Soo-jin's voice came through the communication system from her command bunker deep beneath Earth's surface. What about the other projects? The ones you mentioned before. Dr. Yoon hesitated. Project Solar Wrath is ready, but using it might damage our own solar system. The magnetic field generators are untested at full power. Explain, Admiral Park ordered. We've placed massive magnetic field generators at key points throughout the solar system. They can manipulate solar plasma and create directed solar flares. Essentially, we can turn the sun into a weapon. The tactical officer looked up from his console. The Valerian fleet is in attack position. They're charging their weapons. All ships, prepare for engagement, Admiral Park commanded. Luna Base, activate all defense systems. Earth orbital platforms, target the nearest enemy vessels. The battle began with the Valerians firing their light weapons at Earth's remaining defense platforms. The beams cut through space like deadly rainbows, destroying platforms and filling the void with debris. But this time, Earth was ready. Fire all kinetic weapons. Admiral Park ordered dozens of tungsten rods launched from hidden positions around Earth and Luna. They struck the Valerian ships at incredible speed, punching through crystal holes and causing massive explosions. 10 alien ships died in the first volley. But the Valerians had learned. Their remaining ships immediately began evasive maneuvers, making it harder for the kinetic weapons to hit them. They returned fire with increased intensity, targeting the sources of the tungsten rod attacks. They're adapting faster than expected, reported Dr. Yoon. Our hidden launch platforms are taking heavy damage. Captain Lee Duhyan led the Hellfire Squadron in a desperate attack run against the nearest Valerian ships. His fighters were small and fast, but they carried a special cargo that Dr. Yoon had developed in secret. Hellfire 1 to command, he reported. The beginning antimatter bomb run. The small fighters dove toward the massive alien vessels like angry wasps attacking giants. Each fighter carried a bomb made of antimatter, the most powerful explosive humans had ever created. The pilots knew it was a suicide mission, but they flew anyway. Captain Lee's fighter reached the hull of a Valerian ship and released its antimatter bomb. The explosion was brighter than a small sun, completely vaporizing the alien vessel and creating a shockwave that damaged nearby ships. Direct hit, he reported. Antimatter weapons are effective against their hulls, but the cost was terrible. Half of the Hellfire Squadron died in the attack, their fighters destroyed by the explosions of their own weapons. The surviving pilots regrouped for another run. "We can't keep this up," Commander Choi Minho said. "We're losing too many ships." And pilots, the Valerian fleet, pressed their attack. Their light weapons destroyed Earth's last orbital defense platforms and began targeting the planet's surface. Cities on the night side of Earth lit up as energy beams struck them, leaving glowing craters where buildings had stood. "They're targeting population centers," reported the tactical officer. "Millions of people are dying." Admiral Park felt anger burn in his chest. "Dr. Yoon, prepare Solar Wrath for immediate activation." "Sir, the risks, do it now." In her underground bunker, Dr. Yoon activated the magnetic field generators that humanity had secretly placed throughout the solar system. The devices, each one the size of a small city, began to create powerful magnetic fields that reached out to touch the sun itself. "Solar Wrath is charging," she reported. "Magnetic field generators are at 50% power and rising." The Valerian fleet continued their assault on Earth. More cities burned as their weapons struck the planet's surface. The human fleet fought back desperately, but they were outnumbered 10 to 1. "Hi Arbiter," Velthan's voice came over the communication channels. "Your resistance is admirable but futile. We will glass your entire world and use it as an example." "Two other species, not if we glass you first," President Kang replied. The magnetic field generators reached full power. On the surface of the sun, 93 million miles away, the magnetic fields began to interact with the solar plasma. Massive solar flares erupted from the star's surface, larger than any natural flare in recorded history. "Solar Wrath is ready," Dr. Yoon announced. "The sun is responding to our magnetic manipulation. Target the center of the Valerian fleet," Admiral Park ordered. The solar flare, guided by the magnetic field generators, erupted from the sun like a river of fire. It raced across space at incredible speed, carrying enough energy to power human civilization for 1,000 years. The Valerian ships detected the approaching plasma wave and tried to retreat, but they were too slow. The solar flare struck their fleet like the fist of an angry god. Crystal hulls that had withstood kinetic weapons and antimatter bombs melted like ice under the incredible heat. The electromagnetic pulse from the solar flare disabled electronic systems on both human and alien ships. In seconds, 200 Valerian vessels simply ceased to exist. "Incredible," whispered Commander Choi Minho. "The entire center of their fleet is gone." But the victory came at a cost. The electromagnetic pulse had also disabled most of Earth's defense systems. The remaining Valerian ships, though damaged, still outnumbered the human fleet. "Hi Arbiter," Velthan's transmission came through on emergency frequencies. His crystal face showed cracks, and his voice was filled with rage. "Impossible. You primitive creatures have turned a star into a weapon. This violates every law of civilized warfare." "We make our own laws," Admiral Park replied. "Then you will die by them," the aliens snarled. "Deploy the Void Sphere. Destroy this entire system." The remaining Valerian ships began to form a new formation around a single massive vessel that had stayed at the back of the fleet. It was larger than any ship the humans had seen, its crystal hull black instead of blue. "What's a Void Sphere?" asked Commander Choi Min-ho. Dr. Yoon's voice was tight with fear. "According to our intelligence, it's a weapon that can create artificial black holes. If they activate it near Earth, the planet dies." Admiral Park finished. "The entire solar system dies," Dr. Yoon corrected. The battle had reached its most dangerous point. Humanity had hurt the Valerian Empire badly, but the aliens still had one final, terrible weapon, and they were angry enough to use it. The black Valerian ship moved to the center of their remaining fleet like a dark star surrounded by crystal satellites. Admiral Park Taemin watched it through his damaged viewscreen, knowing that humanity was about to face its final test. "The Void Sphere is activating," reported Dr. Yoon Hae-won from her underground bunker. "I'm reading massive gravitational distortions. Whatever that thing does, it's starting now." Space around the black ship began to twist and bend. Stars in the background looked stretched, as if someone was pulling them like taffy. The fabric of reality itself seemed to be breaking down. "All ships, emergency retreat," Admiral Park ordered. "Get as far from that vessel as possible." But it was already too late. The Void Sphere activated fully, creating a sphere of absolute darkness that began to grow. It was a miniature black hole, controlled by Valerian technology and aimed directly at Earth. The gravitational pull from the artificial black hole reached out like invisible hands. Earth's atmosphere began to stretch toward it, creating massive storms across the planet's surface. Ocean tides rose hundreds of feet high, flooding coastal cities in minutes. Gravitational readings are off the charts. Commander Choi Minho reported from Luna Base. "The moon's orbit is already changing. We have maybe 30 minutes before Earth is pulled apart." President Kang Sujin's voice came over the emergency channels from her deep bunker. Options. I need options, right now. We could try to destroy the Void Sphere ship, suggested Captain Li Du, but getting close enough would be suicide. The gravitational field would crush any ship that approaches. Dr. Yoon worked frantically at her control panels. There might be one way. If we overload the solar magnetic field generators, we could create a gravitational shockwave. It might disrupt their black hole, might Admiral Park asked. The calculations are beyond anything we've ever attempted. Success probability is less than 10%. And if it fails, the overload could destabilize our own sun. So we die anyway, Admiral Park said grimly. Do it. But before Dr. Yoon could activate the emergency overload, Admiral Park made a decision that would be remembered for as long as humans existed. He turned his ship, the battleship Indomitable, toward the Void Sphere vessel. Admiral, what are you doing? Commander Choi asked. Something stupid and necessary. Park replied. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. This is Admiral Park Taemin. I'm taking the Indomitable on a direct attack run against the Void Sphere ship. All remaining vessels are to retreat and protect Earth's evacuation ships. Captain Li Du voice crackled over the communications. Sir, that's suicide. The gravitational field will tear your ship apart before you get close. Maybe, but this ship is loaded with every antimatter warhead we have left. If I can get close enough. Admiral Park didn't finish the sentence. Everyone understood. The Indomitable turned and began its final flight toward the black Valerian vessel. The ship's hull groaned and twisted as it entered the edge of the gravitational field. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as the vessel's structure began to fail. Hull integrity at 60% and falling, reported his tactical officer. Keep us on course, Admiral Park ordered. Maximum thrust. Behind them, Earth continued to die. The artificial black hole was pulling apart the planet's crust, creating earthquakes that could be seen from space. Billions of people huddled in underground shelters, knowing they might not live to see another sunrise. The Indomitable pushed deeper into the gravitational field. The ship's metal frame screamed under the impossible stress. Crew members were thrown against bulkheads as gravity twisted in different directions throughout the vessel. Hull integrity at 30%. The tactical officer reported, blood running from his nose. We're not going to make it. Yes, we are, Admiral Park said firmly. Hi, Arbiter Velthiness, voice came over the communication channels. Foolish. Human, your ship will be crushed long before you reach us. Your sacrifice means nothing. Earth endures, Admiral Park replied. Humanity endures. The Indomitable was only 2 kilometers from the Void Sphere ship when its hull finally began to break apart. Sections of the vessel peeled away like flower petals, spinning off into the gravitational chaos. But the ship's core, reinforced with the strongest materials humanity could create, held together just long enough. Detonating all antimatter warheads, Admiral Park announced. It's been an honor serving with you all. The explosion that followed was visible from Mars. Every antimatter warhead on the Indomitable detonated simultaneously, creating a blast that briefly outshone the sun. The shockwave struck the Void Sphere ship at point-blank range. The black Valerian vessel, designed to control gravitational forces, could not withstand a direct antimatter explosion. Its hull cracked like an eggshell, and the Void Sphere technology inside it went critical. The artificial black hole collapsed in on itself and then exploded outward in a burst of gravitational waves that shook the entire solar system. The remaining Valerian ships were caught in the shockwave and crushed like tin cans. The Void Sphere is destroyed, Dr. Yoon reported, her voice filled with amazement. The gravitational distortions are fading. Earth is safe, but the celebration was brief. Long-range sensors detected new contacts at the edge of the solar system. More ships were arriving, but these weren't Valerian vessels. Multiple contacts, dropping out of hyperspace, reported the sensor operator. They're human ships. Looks like our colony fleets. Admiral Ko Jinwick's voice came over the communications from the lead ship. This is the Centauri Defense Fleet. We received Earth's distress signal and came as fast as we could. Commander Choi Minho felt tears in his eyes. Admiral Ko, you're a sight for sore eyes, but you missed the party. From what I can see, it was quite a party, Admiral Ko replied, looking at the debris field that had once been the Valerian fleet. What's your status? Earth is damaged but intact, Commander Choi reported. The Valerian fleet is destroyed. Admiral Park Taemin gave his life to save the planet. There was silence on the communication channel as the colonial fleets absorbed this information. Admiral Park had been a legend among the colonial defense forces, a mentor to many of their officers. We'll make sure his sacrifice is remembered, Admiral Ko said finally. But right now, we need to secure this system. Are there any surviving Valerian ships? Dr. Yoon checked her sensors. I'm reading maybe 30 damaged vessels trying to retreat toward the outer system. They're no longer a threat to Earth, but they might try to escape to report back to their empire. Not if we can help it, Admiral Ko replied grimly. All colonial fleets, intercept and engage. No Valerian ship leaves. This system, Captain Lee Duhayan, now the senior surviving officer of Earth's original defense fleet, opened a channel to all human ships. You heard the Admiral. Let's finish what we started. The hunt for the surviving Valerian ships began immediately. Colonial fleets, fresh and undamaged, quickly surrounded the retreating aliens. The crystal ships that had seemed so powerful just hours before now fled like wounded animals. Hi, Arbiter Velthan, aboard one of the damaged vessels, sent a final transmission. This is not over, humans. The Empire will send a larger fleet. You have only delayed your extinction. President Kong Sujin's voice answered him from Earth. Let them come, we'll be ready. The last Valerian ship was destroyed just as the sun set over the ruins of Earth's great cities. The planet was scarred and damaged, but it was still alive. Humanity had faced extinction and survived through courage, sacrifice, and the willingness to turn stars themselves into weapons. The war was won, but the cost had been terrible. Admiral Park and thousands of other heroes would never see the free galaxy their sacrifice had created. The cleanup after the Great Battle took 3 days. Admiral Ko Jinwook's colonial fleets had destroyed the last of the Valerian ships trying to escape the solar system. Not a single alien vessel survived to carry word back to their empire. Commander Choi Minho stood on the observation deck of Luna Base, looking out at the debris field that stretched across space. Thousands of crystal fragments caught the sunlight, creating a beautiful but deadly light show. Each piece represented a Valerian ship that would never threaten another world. Final count is in reported Captain Lee Duhayan, who had been promoted. To fill Admiral Park's position, 500 Valerian ships destroyed, 0 survivors detected. Dr. Yoon Hae-won joined them at the observation window. She looked exhausted but satisfied. We've been analyzing the wreckage. Their technology is incredible, but also very specialized. They never developed defenses against the kind of weapons we used. Kinetic weapons and solar manipulation. Captain Lee said, who would have thought that simple solutions would work? So, well, sometimes the old ways are the best ways, Dr. Yoon replied. While they focused on energy shields and exotic technology, we stuck with physics that Newton would understand. President Kong Sujin arrived at Luna Base the next day to inspect the damage and plan humanity's next moves. Earth was scarred but healing. The gravitational distortions from the void sphere had caused massive damage, but the planet's core remained stable. Casualty reports. She asked. Commander Choi handed her a datapad. 2 billion people were evacuated to underground shelters during the battle. We lost approximately 50 million civilians to the initial attacks and gravitational effects. Military casualties were severe, but within acceptable limits for a battle of this scale. President Kong nodded grimly. 50 million dead was a terrible price, but it could have been 50 billion if they had surrendered or lost a fight. What about the Valerian Empire? She asked. Will they send another fleet? Dr. Yoon activated a holographic display, showing their analysis of captured Valerian data. This was their primary conquest fleet. According to their own records, they haven't lost a major fleet engagement in over 1,000 years. The loss of 500 ships will be felt across their entire empire. More importantly, added Captain Lee, we captured their navigation data before destroying their ships. We know the location of every major Valerian world. President Kang studied the star map showing Valerian territory. It was massive, spanning thousands of light years and hundreds of worlds. But for the first time in centuries, it was vulnerable. Admiral Ko, she said, turning to the colonial fleet commander. What's the status of our combined forces? Admiral Ko Jinwook pulled up fleet reports on his datapad. The colonial fleets suffered minimal damage. We have approximately 300 ships ready for immediate deployment. Earth's surviving vessels need repairs, but most will be combat ready within a month. And the new weapons? President Kang asked Dr. Yoon. We can produce kinetic bombardment systems for the entire fleet within 6 weeks. The solar manipulation technology will take longer to deploy, but we can install basic versions on the colonial ships. President Kang made her decision. We're not waiting for them to send another fleet. We're taking the fight to them. Within a month, the largest human fleet in history was ready for departure. 400 ships, armed with the weapons that had destroyed the Valerian conquest fleet, prepared to leave the solar system. Their destination was the Valerian Empire's core worlds. But before they could launch their attack, something unexpected happened. Messages began arriving from across the galaxy. Species that had been enslaved by the Valerians for centuries had heard about Earth's victory. This is incredible, Dr. Yoon said. Reading the transmission logs, 67 different species have sent messages. They want to join our fight against the Valerians. The messages told the same story over and over. For thousands of years, the Valerian Empire had crushed any resistance with overwhelming force. But Earth's victory had proven that the crystals aliens could be defeated. Captain Han Sora, commander of the stealth frigate Silent Thunder, had been conducting reconnaissance missions in Valerian space. Her reports painted a picture of an empire in chaos. Rebellions are breaking out on 17 worlds, she reported via secure transmission. The Valerians are pulling ships from their border fleets to deal with internal problems. Their outer territories are practically undefended. President Kong saw the opportunity immediately. Change of plans. We're not just attacking the Valerians, we're liberating every world they've conquered. The human fleet split into smaller task forces, each one targeting a different Valerian sector. They brought with them a simple message that Dr. Yoon had helped compose. It was broadcast on every frequency the aliens used for communication. This is the Terran Federation. The message began. The Valerian Empire told us to surrender or die. We chose to fight. Their conquest fleet of 500 ships lies in ruins around our homeworld. No species should kneel. No world should burn. Freedom is worth any price. The effect was immediate and devastating for the Valerians. On world after world, enslaved, populations rose in rebellion. Species that had been oppressed for generations suddenly had hope and weapons to fight back. Captain Lee Du-hyan led the attack on the Valerian world of Kethmorin, a major military base that controlled 3 star systems. His task force arrived to find the planet already in revolt. The local population had risen against their crystal overlords the moment they heard Earth's message. This is incredible, he reported. The rebels have already taken control of the orbital shipyards. They're asking for technical assistance to convert Valerian ships for their own use. Similar reports came in from across the galaxy. The Valerian Empire, which had seemed unbeatable just months before, was collapsing under the weight of its own oppression. High Arbiter Velfin, who had somehow survived the battle at Earth by not being present for the final engagement, sent a desperate message to President Kong from the Valerian capital world. You have doomed the galaxy to chaos, his transmission said. The Empire brought order and peace. Without our control, these worlds will tear themselves apart in endless wars. President Kong's response was broadcast to every world in Valerian space. Order without freedom is not peace. It's just slavery with better publicity. Every species has the right to choose its own path, even if that path includes mistakes. The final blow came when Captain Han Sora's stealth ships reached the Valerian homeworld itself. The planet that had ruled an empire for 3,000 years was now surrounded by rebel fleets from dozens of former slave worlds. The Valerian government is requesting surrender terms, Captain Han reported. Their military is in full retreat, and their population is in revolt. They're offering to disband the empire and release all conquered territories. President Kang considered the offer for exactly 10 seconds. Tell them, we accept, but with conditions. All Valerian military technology is to be shared with former slave worlds. War criminals will face trial by the species they oppressed, and they will pay reparations for 3,000 years of conquest. The Valerian Empire formally surrendered. 6 months after their fleet had first appeared at Earth, the signing ceremony took place on a former slave world, with representatives from over 100 liberated species. Present. Dr. Yoon stood beside President Kong as they watched the ceremony. Hard to believe it's over. 6 months ago, we were facing extinction. Now we're helping to rebuild an entire galaxy. It's not over, President Kong replied. It's just beginning. Freedom is easy to win but hard to keep. These worlds will need help learning to govern themselves. Captain Lee, now promoted to Admiral and Commander of the new Galactic Liberation Fleet, approached them with his final report. The last Valerian military base has surrendered. Their conquest fleets are disbanded. Every enslaved world is now free. President Kong nodded. And what about Earth? How's the reconstruction going? Faster than expected. Turns out that having the gratitude of 100 liberated worlds makes rebuilding much easier. We're receiving aid from across the galaxy. 10 years later, Admiral Lee Du-hyan stood on the bridge of the rebuilt Earth defense platform. In the distance, the memorial to Admiral Park Taemin caught the light of the setting sun. The memorial was made from fragments of the Valerian ships he had died destroying. Ships from dozens of worlds filled Earth's orbital space, bringing trade and friendship instead of conquest. The galaxy was not perfect. Freedom came with its own problems, but it was free. A young officer approached with the daily reports. Sir, the Council of Free Worlds is requesting our assistance with a border dispute in the Outer Rim. Admiral Lee smiled. Send a diplomatic ship first, but have a battle group ready, just in case. Some people only understand strength. He looked out at the stars, remembering the words that had become humanity's motto. No species should kneel. No world should burn. Freedom is worth any price. The Empire had demanded submission. Earth had answered with Inferno. And in that fire, a free galaxy had been born.